This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 452 for Wednesday, October 5th, 2022. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we're into. Joining me this week, Steven is back. You can find him at StevenESC on Twitter and on Twitch. Hello, welcome back, my friend.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Of course. It's always a fun way to kick off the month, having you back on the show. And usually enough time has lapsed between the last time that we spoke that we can both have something interesting to talk about, which we will get to later this evening. But in the meantime, you're back on Twitch. You're back streaming. How's that going?
I am. It's going well, actually. It's interesting. It felt bad taking time away, when you've got people subscribing, but everybody seemed to be so supportive and just say, take that time that you need. And I feel like now that I've come back with, refreshed and a new appreciation for it. And the chat is good. And it feels like it did early on. I've just been wearing myself out with freelance work. Day job was busier. Streaming felt like a chore. Even though I enjoyed it once I started, it just felt like a chore to get to it. So it feels, I'm really happy with the way it feels now.
Nice. I can identify because there are definitely times, and specifically lately, where I don't want to play Minecraft. Like I want to sit down and stream, and I want to sit down and stream on a weekend, just like I normally do. But I'm itching to play something like Satisfactory because it had a new game update. I've started a new project that I quite enjoy, and it's very different than Minecraft in its look and feel. So it's a nice break from like the project that I've been working on in Minecraft, which is coming up on 2 years in production on the calendar.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. No, the goal is to try and finish it up by the end of the year. I don't know if I'm going to do that. But if I'm going to do that, I might have to start playing Minecraft more than twice a week. But what ends up happening on the weekends is I play Minecraft for 3 hours, and then I switch over to Satisfactory for the rest of the stream. So the streams are like, 5 hours or so. And but I know what you mean. Like
marathon streamer.
Yeah, double header. Like, and I mean, it's fine. I mean, like I don't have a lot of other responsibilities on the weekend. There's not a lot going on. So it works out. But the idea of streaming feeling like work, it doesn't happen very much, but it does happen from time to time, especially now that I do it more often as part of my income. But I'm glad that you found a balance. I'm glad that you found a way to kind of like get back into it. Do you find like it's feeling refreshed now? Like it's definitely more something that you're excited to do and looking to sit down for next time?
It is actually. And part of me coming back to the streaming and to Minecraft is I actually started this a single player world that I had been looking to start for the longest time. So it was I started it briefly, I think soon after I started streaming originally, and you updated the Citadel, and then it was like, okay, I've got 2 streams this week that I don't know what to do for because the Citadel's not up. And so I had created that world, and it was this standalone island in the middle of an ocean, and I couldn't see anything around me, and I thought, this is neat. And then as I was doing it, the shine of the neatness wore off when I realized I have to boat for ages to get to a shore to get resources and then come back. So it was a lot of in the boat back and forth. And then so that sort of my interest in that sort of faded. But then I said, okay, well, I'll come back to it I think in 1.18. And I just never got to it. And then I thought, I'll just get back to it when 1.19 comes out because, the new terrain, the new world generation. And I thought, well, coming back after a bit of a break is a good opportunity to do that. And I just wanted to try something new. So this is the first time I'm doing modded Minecraft as well. I feel like I'm going to add more mods as I go along, but my goal is to try to make it like a cruelty-free world if I can, so that any of the what do they call the docile mobs or the non-hostile mobs, I'll have no need to kill them.
Right, for like food or drops and stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah. So I haven't picked them all out yet because I was going through a list and I'm getting tripped up between forge and fabric. So ones that I think are going to work, they're not doing the thing that I want. But I've got a great one that I like. It's called Eat All the Eggs. and so you can actually eat the eggs that the chickens drop. But I've never understood why you couldn't do it. So like, you basically install this, and you've got a scrambled egg recipe. You could do like egg salad sandwich that you can take with you, and then if you wanted to still do kind of kill the mobs for food, then you can do beef and eggs, and then bacon and eggs kind of thing. So it's kind of neat. It's but for me, I'd be just interested in the scrambled eggs and the egg sandwiches. But it also allows you to take a loaf of bread and put it into 12 slices. That's fun.
So where are you with things like fish in the cruelty free? Like you don't want to get like cook fish or use fish. What about fish that drops from like other things like guardians?
Yeah, I would take those.
Okay.
And likewise, there was a chicken the other day that I happened to come up from underground, and there was just a chicken and feathers there. The only thing I could think of is that there might have been a mob up there that one of the golems struck and might have hit a chicken at the same time, because it was just weird.
Sure,
like
yeah.
a dead chicken there with feathers and things about. So things like that, I would, otherwise I just let it despawn, and it's a waste of food.
It's cool that there's mods out there to let people tweak Minecraft like that. Because one of the mods that I had when I was playing around with modded Minecraft was like, I can't remember what it was called, but I've seen things that are similar to like Pam's Harvest Craft, and they're basically like giant farming mods where you can do corn and zucchini and tomatoes, and like you can basically just and there's usually at this point there's usually some sort of crossover between Fabric and Forge, depending on, if Pam's Harvest Craft is a Forge mod, then Fabric would have something else that would be similar. You might not get all the same things, but it would be very similar in terms of the activities and stuff like that. For folks that don't know, on the off chance you're not a big Minecraft player, then Forge and Fabric are modding platforms, and they're separate. So what you play on one platform, you can't play on the other. And you can usually you can only load one platform at a time. So vanilla Minecraft is just as it comes out of the box with Java, but then you can add these mods. And we do play modded Minecraft on the Citadel, but the only mods that we are using are like quality of life UI mods. There's not very many gameplay mods, basically because Johnny and I do the Spawn Chunks podcast about vanilla Java Minecraft, and we don't want to have a different play experience to talk about every week on the show than what most of the listeners are experiencing. So we keep the gameplay pretty vanilla on the Citadel. I do like modded, but I find for me, and I'm curious because you've got some big projects on the Citadel. So just to kind of get back to the streaming and the time management stuff with the new world, with the single player world, do you feel that pulls you away from the Citadel? Like, are you worried about dividing your time? Because that's where I find I get into a modded series. It's a single player thing. I'm enjoying it. It's fun. And then it starts to get time intensive. And I think if I'm going to put this much time into Minecraft, I should really put it on this giant medieval town that I've been building for 2 years on the Citadel, so I can actually finish it, rather than like dividing my Minecraft time between two separate worlds. Does that ever squeak into your brain?
It does, yeah. And I mean, I'm hoping to become a bit of a, not that I'm going to become this great big multi-streamer with a bunch of different things on the go, but there are games that I would like to do as well. Like I did Portal once, and now that Portal and Portal 2 are available on the Nintendo Switch, I am going to do those again. I want to do another Portal 1 run before I do Portal 2, and then I'll do Portal 2 for a while, then I've got Lego and stuff. So there is always that worry about splitting my time between stuff, but I think I'm just going to have to do that, just to switch it up, keep myself from feeling like it's a chore, because I do really like the community of people that come to my streams and then hang out in the chat, and then you know a lot of them as well, because they hang out in yours as well, and just a great group of people. So
there's a fair amount of crossover community. Yeah,
I do worry about what I put up being something that's going to keep them coming, interesting for them, interesting for me, not diluting stuff too much. So it is a worry. I have it on my mind all the time, and I never know what to do. But I do want to go back to the Citadel. I feel like I've hit a rut in terms of the town I want to build, because I don't have a lot of experience doing that. And so part of what I want to do in this early game world is actually get myself used to kind of tweaking things. And I don't want to necessarily start any massive structures or anything like that. I actually want to take this as an opportunity to kind of relearn some of the early stuff, and then maybe get some inspired by some of the things I'm doing here, and then bring that back to the Citadel. And it's also I've been wanting to play the 118 terrains and worlds and the 119s, but where I am and where I'm dedicating all my time is, I think it's like a 115 area or something like that. So it just have to go. I mean, you and I've chatted about this before. We do have a 118/119 area, but it is quite far away, and so it's I feel like that me going and starting something like that on the Citadel is, I don't know, in some weird way removing myself further from my large structure build and just taking some time in a single player world. I don't know how to explain it, but just this almost feels like I can take a little break on a side project and then come back to the Citadel fresh. Where if I start in the 118 section on the Citadel, sometimes I feel like then I need to do something substantial there. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
no, I get it, because the thing with the Citadel, it's a 5-year-old server, and
yeah,
you've been on it for a couple of years now, I think, and
yep,
and most people have the area that they started out in, and they've kind of stuck there. Cosmic's got Somerville, Alistair's got Avalon. I've got things all over the server, but I play a lot, and my biggest project is by far West Hill, and there's another big project in the modern city that multiple people have contributed to, like Cosmic is built there as well, but it's still, there's not like, here's a small build.
yeah,
It's things like Alistair built a small build, but then he built a small thing next to it, and a small thing next to that, and a slightly larger thing next to that. And so over time, his whole area has just gotten bigger, because it just makes sense from the economy of time. Like if you're a busy adult and you don't have a lot of time, you're not going to be spending, no one wants to log into any video game and spend most of the time walking around trying to decide what to do. You're just going to do what you want to do next, and all of your stuff is right here. So like, why not? And so I get it. Like I think about the 118 area as well. And I think like, I don't even know what I would want to do there. I know I'd like to build in a lush cave at some point, but for me, I also think about like starting something on a mushroom island and getting, off on my own again. But then it's like, I also really like collaboration. And one of the nice things about doing things together on the Citadel is that like, it's this weird thing that happens in Minecraft where it's a multiplayer server, but we very rarely play together. It happens, but it's like digging a tunnel or helping someone with some grindy thing, but there's not a lot of creative collaboration. And I think part of that is because of the large project kind of intimidation. And like, Alistair has got his own large project, and it's like, you want to offer to help, but at the same time, like, you don't want to step on any creative toes. Like Alistair's got a vision, I've got a vision, with West Hill. And so I don't think people feel comfortable coming in and like, necessarily saying, "Hey, I'll build a house for you," because I don't think it would really, be comfortable for both parties,
yeah.
Even though one of the things that I started with the server, as an exercise in letting go, it was like, yes, that's fine. I did not claim that mountaintop. You can build whatever you want there, and just kind of having to deal with, however it went. But also everybody's friends and everybody's pretty cordial, and like there's no one builds like a giant, inappropriate, modern townhouse like next to a medieval city, because it ruins the vibe, right? No one would do that. So, and I mean, it helps that we've got different zones and stuff. I don't want to turn this into like the Citadel talk.
No.
Even though the server bears the name of the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's hard not to talk.
Yeah, but it's cool. But it's cool to like look at that, like, because for me, like, I remember what it was like doing like, hobby streams, twice a week. And you only had that much time. Like you had 6 hours, 3 hours one day and 3 hours the next. And that was all you had. And trying to balance, like, what are you going to play? How do you not just become a Minecraft player? And one of the good ways to do that, as you said, starting out, is to do like a modded Minecraft world and then a normal Minecraft world. And then that way it varies up the gameplay for you and the people watching.
Yeah. And so I plan on adding a bunch of mods still. I don't want to go too far, but I'd like to, I guess, add enough to make it a different experience from what I get out of the Citadel without taking too much away from it still being Minecraft. Like, I don't want it to be like, well, this is a brand new video game. I mean, I remember when you did the All of Fabric 5,
mm-hmm.
it was for me personally, I felt like that was too much of a change. Like I don't need a bazillion extra elements to mine. I mean, I have enough time, enough trouble trying to deal with the ones that they've got in the game already. Like the variety that's there right now is enough for me at the moment. So there were so many layers if you put the entire all of Fabric 5 in there that it almost felt like it could have been a different game. And so I'm trying not to do that too much. It was neat and I enjoyed watching it, but I don't know that I want to do that with this world. And I say that now, but I may just add a bunch of them and then strip some out kind of thing. But we'll see. Either way, I'm enjoying it right now, so it's good.
Going slowly is the better way to go, I think. Going the other direction, adding a bunch of mods in a big mod pack and then slowly removing the ones that you don't like or clash and stuff like that was problematic. And you do get overwhelmed and it becomes more of an admin management task, homework that has been assigned to your own video game play, which is strange.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing that I find is that with mods, of course, most of them, if not all of them, are player designed. And players are not necessarily developers. Some of them are, right, but not all of them. And so basically it's like, I'm going to add this and I'm going to add everything in the kitchen sink just because I can, not necessarily because you should, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, here's this great mod and it's got this 1 or 2 blocks that you really like and it's fantastic. It also has 200 other blocks you're never going to use, but they show up in your library or they show up as a possibility that you just have to like wade through to find the stuff that you actually want.
Scroll.
Yeah. So I found that tedious. And there are mods for other games. Like I've played Skyrim with mods. I've not played Satisfactory with mods, but I've watched people play it with mods. And I sometimes just like put the mod, and you might find this too with Minecraft, is like, here's a cool mod. It does a cool thing, but it basically turns the game into easy mode. It's like, I'll just play creative if I want it to be this easy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like here's 6 new tiers of armor that make you freaking invincible. Well, where's the fun in that? You know, it's like, this isn't a mod that you made because you thought it was good. This is a mod that you made because you suck.
Yeah. And I'm lucky in the sense that I've got my sons to kind of bounce the ideas off of, because I said, I was thinking of doing the feather drop. There's a couple of different feather drop mods that allow you to pick up chicken feathers so that you kind of make arrows without having to kill the chickens and blah, blah, blah. But they said, no, you shouldn't do that because that's probably a little too cheaty. What you should do is actually, go through the trouble of intentionally creating a Fletcher, and then actually, for 1 emerald, you can get 16 arrows. And I might be messing those numbers up. So they're kind of giving me, their input on, things to not make it too easy while still trying to keep it as vanilla as possible without, I guess, making it too easy,
That makes sense.
Because the feather drop ones, it's just like if there's I tried it one time and there were, I think, 4 chickens kicking around the village I was in a test world, and I just kind of logged out and came back in, and there were just dozens of feathers all over the floor. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, I guess I can make quills and quills of arrows. So
there's always that balance. And sometimes mods will give you the control to say, like, turn off all these things or use all these things. There's a map mod that we use on the Citadel that allows you to teleport around, but we don't do that because that's not survival, I don't use it even for waypoints. Like the only thing I use it for is a top-down view, something that I feel the game should have anyway. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's where, I think a lot of times people will use mods on Minecraft, which is a 11-year-old game now, coming up on 12. And it's to update the UI, right? It's to add a search bar, into your inventory. It's like to do stuff like that. One of the mods that I really liked was an inventory mod that allowed you to connect your chests together. You had to physically connect them in the game with a cord, but when you were done, you could go to one interface and access all the chests that were connected and just type in what you're looking for, like coal. And it doesn't matter whether you had 1 piece of coal and 8 different chests, it would show up as 8 pieces of coal in your inventory, and so that I found was helpful because there was an in-game aspect to it as well. It just wasn't a make easy button. It was like, no, you have to set it up, and that's fun.
Yeah.
And that's part of the gameplay.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, obviously for folks listening, Minecraft takes up a lot of space in our brains. But I've got something to talk about in actual space. And it's a little bit of old news because I had it bookmarked for a potential podcast at the end of September, but we didn't record. So the article from CBC is from September 26th. We have impact. NASA slams spacecraft into asteroid in unprecedented text.
Mm-hmm.
A NASA spacecraft slammed into an asteroid at blistering speed Monday in an unprecedented dress rehearsal for the day a killer rock menaces Earth. The galactic Grand Slam happened 11.3 million kilometers away, with the spacecraft, the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART, plowing into the rock at, get this, 22,500 kilometers an hour.
How do you steer that?
You don't. I don't think you have to. I think you aim it. It's math. Like you just trajectory of asteroid, trajectory of spacecraft. You just make sure that they cross at the right point.
Cross your fingers.
Yeah. Scientists expected the impact to carve out a crater, hurl streams of rock and dirt into space, and most importantly, alter the asteroid's orbit. We have impact. Mission controls, Elena Adams announced, jumping up and down and thrusting her arms skyward. So I watched a video of this on YouTube. I won't read any more of the article. We'll have it linked in the show notes. But it was really cool. I don't know how much it actually worked, but seeing live video footage from the spacecraft as it approached this deep space rock was really, really interesting, because as it got closer and closer and closer, you were getting higher and higher resolution images of the surface of this asteroid. And it just kind of dawned, like, and it looks like rocks and dust in the same way that we've all seen pictures of the moon. And in the same way we've seen rocks and dust in like maybe a grayer area of Earth, it looks like rocks and dust. And I just thought it was so interesting that, like, I'm sure there are elements on this thing that are, or composition of elements on this thing that are different than on Earth. It would have the same elements, I would imagine, because that's how the universe works. But like the composition would be entirely different. But it looked extraterrestrial and terrestrial at the same time. Like a rock is a rock is a rock. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's 11 million kilometers away or not. So that it was cool.
That blows my mind as well. The fact that you're getting what they, live footage or whatever, but regardless of whether it was live or just like close to live, or even, whatever that delay is, from 11 million miles away, like, holy smokes, technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, it's just even hard to fathom that that's the possible thing.
Yeah, the spacecraft packed a scant 570 kilograms compared to the asteroid's 5 billion kilograms, but that should be plenty to shrink its 11-hour, 55-minute orbit around Didymos. Didymos is a different star than ours, I guess. So yeah, I thought it was cool. I've been trying to keep my eye on stuff. Obviously, the Hurricane Ian, I think, in Florida. Delayed for quite a while the launch of the Artemis mission, the new mission to the moon that I've been trying to track. That's been trying to launch for like 6 weeks. But I've got my eyes peeled for this stuff. I find it fascinating, and it's really cool. It's not science fiction. Like it feels like science fiction, but it's actually happening, which is really, really cool. Speaking of things that are cool, the new Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer, not the teaser. The teaser we saw from Comic-Con, but this is the full trailer that came out a couple days ago. Now you've seen this. I watched it last night or the day before, and it has the same sort of somber mood to start, including several scenes that we've already seen in the teaser trailer. But there is a lot more action, a lot more visuals, a lot more tech. High tech, Black Panther, Wakanda high tech stuff. And they set up the antagonist better, which I like, which I believe is Namor is the name. Is it Namor or is that Marvel? There's another guy in DC that's very similar.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's so that's really cool. And there seems to be a lot of really cool, like, visual culture around Namor as well as Wakanda. And I'm curious to see how they bring this all together. I can't say if I'm on board with, I believe, is it Suri? Is that her name?
Yeah, I don't know if it's pronounced Suri or Shuri, but
I'm not a big fan of the actor. So I don't know if I'm just quite on board yet for the potential, because I'm not quite sure the potential that she's Black Panther.
Yeah, it's in the comic books. She from what I remember, she picks up the mantle in the comic book series. But I've seen some pictures and some posters, and while in the trailer the build of the new Black Panther looks like it could be Shuri, I don't know that the physical presence of the people that they've had in the posters look like they would be as slim as Shuri. Like it could be Okoye, or actually I saw Angela Bassett's character. What is it? Queen Ramonda, I think.
Ramonda, yeah.
Ramonda, and she's looked like she's got some pretty stacked arms in that. I'm like, oh, would they pass the mantle up? That would be interesting as well because
Mm-hmm.
Angela Bassett's awesome. I don't know if it is going to be her, so I'm curious to see how it plays out.
My favorite is Nakia. That's who I would hope for.
Right.
Just in terms of the quality of the actor and her, she's the kind of character that wouldn't want it, which means that they're probably the best character to have it, right?
True. Yeah.
And they did a really hard, like not hard as in bad, but they did a really good job of setting up Shuri in the original Black Panther as like she's basically the girl in the chair, right? Like she's the tech person behind everything. She's the one that makes the cool tools. She's the Q from James Bond of the Wakanda universe, right? And so I'm just not sure. And there is no one credited on the DB page as character name / Black Panther. So it's obviously meant to be a reveal. I'm looking forward to it. I really enjoyed the first one. I'm definitely going to go see this in theaters now that COVID restrictions are a lot lighter. I think that's going to be a fun thing to go see. And I mean, I really enjoy everybody in it. So like, we'll see how it's going to go. And I don't know how to pronounce his name properly, but Tenoch Huerta, I think, as Namor. He looks cool. Like he definitely looks the part. And between that and all the special effects that they're doing in terms of the underwater stuff, and the culture of like, it looks like kind of like a Mayan, like Central America sort of culture.
Yeah.
I mean, they're probably making it up for, the comic verse, but they're pulling from, it looks like, Pacific native culture, and it looks really cool. The poster is awesome. Have you seen the poster?
I've seen the poster that's on IMDb. I don't know if that's like the print poster that you're talking about, or where it's got
that's it. Yep.
The Wakanda up top and
they've
underwater folk below.
Yeah, they just kind of like they've put the underwater folk below, but they're all upside down.
Yeah.
Right. Like cool. I think it's cool. It's mirrored, and they've got like the grunts, like the foot soldiers at the bottom, and like it's a good for a poster full of heads, which Marvel's kind of guilty of a lot. They do a good job with it.
Yeah.
And they do put Shuri right in the middle, but I think it's a misdirect. I hope it's a misdirect. But like you said, when they show that last shot in the trailer of the Black Panther standing up, and it's clearly a woman in the suit, they're pretty slight. It's not a big person,
no.
Which is fine. It just means that it kind of like sort of telegraphs which of the characters it might be.
Yeah, but Nakia is quite slim as well. Not as slim as Shuri, but definitely slim.
Yep, that's why my fingers are crossed.
Okoye is she's fit. Like I'd say she'd be, muscularly bulkier than what looks like would fit in the Black Panther suit that they show. So it's I think you're right. I think it's probably, and this is just purely speculating based on the visuals, either Nakia or Shuri.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, I mean, and Okoye, like I mean, she's so iconic as on her own.
I know.
Like you don't necessarily want to lose that, because that itself over several films, Black Panther, and then there was another couple films that she was into. I mean, obviously Endgame and stuff like that, but like there was other things where they did cameos, and just like the presence there and the iconic costume. I think it would be I don't want to say well, it's a shame, I think, to remove that. I think that there's so many
Yeah.
Okoye fans out there that just for the way she is now, that I think maintaining that kind of, because she's essentially a king's guard, right? Like that's how that essentially the
Yeah.
role is, like a king's bodyguard.
Yeah. For me, I actually kind of hope that it is her because of a lot of the reasons you said. I don't think any single person in Wakanda would question her devotion to the country. She already has the skills to fight, and then to have that Black Panther power layered on top of that. And I guess going back to what you said, I don't think she would want it either.
True.
Like it's
Yep.
it's going to be tough. I'm really excited for it. So it's going to be good.
No, I agree. I think it's going to be good. And this is where I think about it too, because like I thought traditionally it had to go by blood. Like I thought it was like father to son.
Me too.
Son to sister would make sense. You know, like but I don't know. Like I don't know if
actually
if
it doesn't.
break.
It would break it. I completely forgot, and I just had a moment where I forgot. But like when they have those trials at the beginning to determine who's going to be the new Black Panther. I apologize. It totally left my brain. Like
yeah, you're right.
And I just saw on IMDb M'Baku, that the guy who plays M'Baku. Like I actually really enjoyed his character the first time, and so Winston Duke. So I'm glad he's back. But yeah, so it could go to anyone worthy, really, which is pretty cool. That opens it wide up.
Because that's how, I don't remember his name. Hunter Killer or something was the character, like it was the superhero character name, but I don't remember the actual guy's name.
Right.
Michael B. Jordan played him in the first movie, but he got it because he beat T'Challa, right? Like
and then that was one of the reasons why I forgot, because he's actually T'Challa's cousin, I believe. Yes, because his father killed his own brother and left his cousin back in the States. So
right.
Anyway,
it's complicated. I'm definitely going to rewatch the first one before getting into this one.
I'm actually really enjoying talking about this because it's reminding me how much I enjoyed the first one, and in my mind, it's still my favorite standalone movie in the series.
It's one of the Marvel movies where you walked out of it and it wasn't like, you know, Thor: Love and Thunder or Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy was good, but it wasn't like Black Panther good. It wasn't like Captain America: Civil War good. You know, those are their own movies. They're not the big like Avengers films, but they have their own thing. And I feel like some of the movies stand up, you know, for example, the Spider-Man movies. I mean, they're not 100% Marvel. Obviously, there's a crossover there with Sony, but like the Spider-Man movies stand up. I think some of the Iron Man, but not all of them are good. But then you get into the weeds of like, you know, the Black Widow movie and like Thor. The first one was good, but like, you know, there's other stuff where like you get into these secondary movies and they're not always smash hits. But I found that the Black Panther film was a absolute like high quality smash hit for me. Anyway,
agreed. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing Riri Williams as Ironheart. So it's sort of picking up the mantle.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah,
no.
So I'm pretty excited for that. I haven't really kind of dived deeply into the comics, but I started reading those. So I'm curious to see how they're going to do this, because in the comics, there's a bit of a mentorship, for lack of a better word right now, with Iron Man, where like Iron Man kind of sees that she's doing this and sort of kind of checks in, and a little bit like kind of an ego check, I think, for him, but also just, I didn't get too deep into it. So I'm curious to see how they're going to be doing this without Iron Man's presence in the series anymore. But I'm pretty excited for that as well. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm jazzed for in this movie.
This could be complete horseshit, but somebody shared a picture of Robert Downey Jr.'s Twitter page that said, "I am Iron Man and will be again," or something like that. So which could be easily faked, right? And just put on, because right now his Twitter page just says, "You know who I am." So I don't know whether he changed it and Disney said, no, you can't do that, or whether someone spoofed it. But I could imagine there being a flashback in Wakanda Forever, right?
Yeah.
Talking about you mentioning mentorship is what kind of tweaked my brain about this, right? So I could see there being a flashback where Robert Downey Jr. appears as Tony Stark / Iron Man in Wakanda Forever, but not currently, as a flashback to this Riri Williams remembering something, right? Remembering an interaction and stuff like that. Or a digital recording, right? It could be like in the same way that he left a message for Pepper and his daughter, right? It could be something like that too, that he would have had to film for this. Who knows? Either way, I'm sure it's gonna be good. I had no idea about the Ironheart connection until I saw the trailer, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
you know that clip of the meme of Leonardo DiCaprio snapping and whistling at the screen? I was like, oh, yeah. I recognize that thruster sound.
Yeah.
Marvel brain. Ignite. Yeah, I'm excited for more Marvel stuff because, and we'll leave this very briefly. I did see Thor: Love and Thunder. No, I'm not talking about it on this show because I didn't like it, and I just don't want to end up in a fest of just like ranting. It wouldn't be pretty, and I don't want to argue with people. So, glad I didn't pay for it. I got it on Disney Plus, so it was already there. What we are going to talk about this week, as best we can, because it's a lot to kind of parse, but I'm still watching Lord of the Rings of Power, as is Steven. Johnny and I talked about it on the last episode. We talked about the first 3 episodes. So Steven and I are going to talk about episode 4, 5, and 6 for The Great Wave, episode 5, Partings, and episode 6, Udûn. Spoilers ahead.
Yeah, spoilers aplenty.
Just warning. I mean, if you're watching this show, then you watch it the moment it comes out, like everybody else, I'm sure. So I don't think there's any great worries there. But on the off chance, maybe you're waiting for your partner to get back and you have to catch up or whatever. Just FYI, we can't talk about this without spoiling the first 6 episodes, but certainly 4, 5, and 6 for sure. One thing I want to set the precedent is that we're not going to go blow by blow, so we're not going to go scene by scene. I will, however, recommend, as I did last time, Decoding TV with David Chen and Don Marshall. They do that. They go scene by scene, and they cover one episode in like 90 minutes or something on their podcast. And they do it very well. David Chen has a good analytical eye for film and story and narrative, and Don Marshall is a Tolkien head in the best way possible and brings a lot of knowledge to the conversation and is also a fan of film and TV and story and stuff. So I can't recommend them enough. I will try to remember if I'm quoting them or pulling any ideas that I listen to on their show and the things that I talk about. But I think that would be a better kind of like blow by blow, because on this show we used to do the blow by blow of Game of Thrones week to week, but that would entail just watching one episode and then diving into just that one episode. Where Steven and I are covering 3, and we don't want to be here until tomorrow evening talking about this. But I will say right away that I am still thoroughly enjoying this show. It continues to be both beautifully shot and have incredible special effects. And I don't mean things that are like wow shots. It's also the practical, the costuming, the set dressing, like everything together pulls you into Middle Earth, and things that draw attention to themselves make sense. And things that are not supposed to draw attention to themselves just pull you in. And I really enjoy that about the show. I do not feel like I'm watching a TV show. I'm definitely transported when watching. I don't know about you, but that's kind of how I feel about the whole thing, is that they're nailing the feeling of Lord of the Rings the way that I want them to.
They are, yeah. And I wasn't really able to kind of articulate it beforehand, but there's a really nice familiarity about it if you've seen the movies already. And I fell down a bit of a Wikipedia hole the other day, and that's intentional. Like a lot of the set designers and costume designers and everything from this TV series intentionally went back and worked with those people from the movies, from the Lord of the Rings movies and the Hobbit movies, and the set dressers, just to kind of reference what they had done so that the world looks like, not just kind of looks like it stylistically, but also structure-wise, when possible. They actually try to make it look like it's the same world, even though you may have seen a destroyed version of it in the future. They still want to have kind of a similar structure. So it's not even like it's just oh, they made it look neat. They're really trying to intentionally make this look like the movies, even though it's got different producers, different directors, different writers. They still want to build on the world that everyone's already familiar with, like physically build on it when possible. So that's why they've got a lot of practical sets to try to match and stuff. So I thought that was pretty impressive that they're trying to do right by the fans and the previous movies that were already done. It's pretty smart.
Yeah, and I think they're also sticking with a lot of important dialogue
Mm-hmm.
and dialogue delivery. There's certain things in the Peter Jackson films that pay homage to the books in terms of poetry, song, whether it's Merry and Pippin singing or whether it's Sam trying to recite or come up with a poem,
Mm-hmm.
to commemorate their adventures. In Again, most of what I'm remembering is probably going to be from episode 6 because it's the one that I saw most recently. But Bronwyn recites either lines from a poem or like lines from a bedtime story or something that she used to say to Theo before he was going to bed
Right.
when he was scared about shadows and light and look to the future where their light, can never touch the shadows, can never touch them, and that kind of stuff. It's basically a message of hope, like don't be scared of the dark. There's always hope, sort of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's written and delivered in a very Tolkien way.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe that's pulled from Tolkien, maybe it's pulled from, there's similar lines. Apparently this is again from the knowledge of Don Marshall. There's similar lines in The Two Towers, I think, when Sam is talking about a poem. But is it that Sam is reciting a poem? Is it something that's been passed down verbally through through Middle Earth culture, or are they referencing a similar work that they've both read? Like I don't know, and that's fine. I don't need to know. But the through line is there. The feeling, the vibe is definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that, and that to me, I think, is where the show like feels the most Tolkien, is when they have those. Sometimes there's a little bit of a pump the brakes where like the whole scene comes to a grinding halt and someone recites some sort of poetry, which is a little bit forced. But like a lot of the times, it's more, Galadriel and Hilbrand and the Queen of, can't remember the name of the place. Um, anyway, the Queen of the island, they're all having
Right.
a regal discussion around a table or a map or something. And the lines delivered there, I don't know necessarily whether they're quote worthy, but they just feel present. They feel like they have
Mm-hmm.
pathos behind them. They're not just always saying, you should do this because I told you to, or repeating, these people need our help, like, an Arrowverse show or something like that. They go into more like proverbial discussion, like
Right.
you might have Galadriel talking about something that her brother shared with her, or, a story about elves, or like, they refer to the history between elves and men a lot, and they're trying to repair that damage and figure out where that damage happened, which is cool because like the audience is kind of wondering what happened as well. And so trying to find that middle ground has been cool. Um,
Yeah.
Speaking of Galadriel, in the last couple of episodes, there's been a lot more action, which I think has amped up the show quite a bit for me as well. Not from every perspective, but certainly in the moments where we've seen the Harfoots, the moments where we've seen some training, with
Mm-hmm.
Galadriel, and Numenor is the name of the place, and
Numenor. Right.
the soldiers of Numenor, where she's training the soldiers, and she's saying like, you can't just use brute force to kill an orc. Like they are stronger and more numerous, so you have to use skill and agility. And she does this. It's almost like a dance where
Yeah.
she's fighting like 5 humans at once and laughing at the
Yeah.
same time. Like there's action and joy in it, which I think is really, really interesting.
And the humans just don't know what's coming. They're trying their
Mm-hmm,
they're
mm-hmm.
trying their darndest, and it's just like they're just at a complete loss of how to do anything against her. Pretty impressive.
Well, and that's the thing, like, that I've always thought so interesting about the way that elves are portrayed in Middle Earth is that because they are essentially immortal, they certainly live for thousands of years unless they're forcibly murdered. Then you just get that good. Like if you've got
Yeah.
thousands of years to practice and hone and to be disciplined as they are, then like you're just going to be like a second nature fighter. It's the same way with dwarves. They don't live thousands of years, but apparently something I've learned over the last few weeks is that they do live hundreds of years, or can live
Oh,
hundreds of
really?
years. So again, if you're an axe wielding dwarf and someone that mines with a pickaxe your entire life, you're going to be built like a brick shithouse.
Yeah.
And if you know how to use that when threats come to bear, then like you're going to be a force to be reckoned with. It's like that, you've got the humans that are having their asses kicked at Helm's Deep in the Two Towers, and Legolas and Gimli are like 53, 47, like they're mowing these orcs down left, right, and center. And I think that's interesting. And that's actually something else the show is doing really well, which is portraying the orcs differently than the Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson trilogy did.
Yes, I completely agree. I think the show did a really good job of making the orcs more intriguing than any of the previous movies. Beforehand, it was just essentially creatures that were created for the purpose of war, and they were always bad and this and that. But this actually presents them as a struggling people, and they don't even want to be called orcs. They're like, we prefer to be called Uruk, and they want their fair stake in the world. I mean, the downside is they're willing to kind of go through and destroy anyone in their way to get their stake in the world. But they don't just treat them as, or they just don't present them as this mindless, savage force just trying to kill everything for the sake of killing everything.
So I'm confused about the whole Uruk thing, because I thought, and I could be wrong, I thought that that's what Adar was referring to himself as, and that the orcs were different. But I could be wrong.
Oh, I see what you mean. Maybe, yeah, it's possible that he was referring to himself as one of, like, because he's been around for a long time, so he might be one of the originals. Maybe that's what he was talking about.
Because, well, in their confrontation in episode 6, Galadriel has him tied to a barn pole and like a support, and she says, you are one of the, and she calls him something, and one of the corrupted elves. So Morgoth corrupted some elves, and that's how orcs started. But
right.
The orcs that we're seeing running around and fighting are not corrupted elves. They are the like hundreds of years offspring or production of orcs in general. But the original orcs were pulled from elves. That's why orcs are stronger than humans and have this, like, all the, not power, but they have this resilience and different attributes because they're corrupted elves. But I thought the original corrupted elves had a certain name, and that the orcs were they were called orcs for their own thing. But I could be wrong, because Adar is very much referring to the orcs as his children, and certainly they think of him as father. Adar is the Elven word for father, and so that could be that he thinks of everyone, regardless of whether they are or not, as Uruk, right? But he corrects her a lot. Adar corrects Galadriel a lot, because she calls him something that basically sounds like it's derogatory. Like, you're an orc, or you're a vile, or I can't remember what she says. It's not orc, I don't think. She calls him something else. But I did notice the similarity between Uruk and Uruk-hai. And Uruk-hai are the big suckers that Saruman makes in the Fellowship of the Ring, right? They're the orcs that can travel at speed during sunlight and are chasing down the hobbits and eventually kidnap Merry and Pippin, right? And so in the book, I want to say that Uruk-hai are orcs and humans together. In the movie, it was more they kind of made them in a weird slime pond. And they just kind of came out. In the books, I want to say that it was insinuated that there was forced mating between women and orcs. But I'm not sure. I don't remember. It's been 20 years since I've read the books. But yeah, it's either way, they're all gross, and they are vile, evil people. However, I like what you said about them having a distinct, not personality, but like a identity, a distinct identity. And Adar gives a speech where he's talking to them as if, like, you will have a home here. You will be, a home for our people.
Yeah. No longer slaves, but brothers and sisters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that gives what I think is interesting is an actual relatable motivation. I'm
Yeah.
not
Makes you
saying
care about them a little bit
a
more.
little bit. I'm not saying that murdering everybody is good.
No. It depends on which side of the story you look at it from, because if you just consider them as a people just looking for their fair stake in the world and being hunted down and killed, of course they're going to do the exact same thing back. You can look at both sides of every story and justify it, but it's definitely maybe not sympathy, maybe that's the wrong word, but it's like it definitely makes me look at them differently. And I did look it up while you were talking, and you were correct. It was the Uruk is what Adar is. He would have been one of the Moriondor, or I might be pronouncing that wrong, but it's one of the elves corrupted by Morgoth.
And so in his speech, something else I thought interesting about, you mentioned slaves, that the orcs, these elves, these Uruk, as they call themselves, were slaves of Morgoth. But when Morgoth fell, Saruman has offered a place to live, a place to call home, a place to not be slaves to the former slaves of Morgoth. So in a way, Sauron is offering, I'll say, freedom to former slaves. So you can understand their devotion and motivation. And I think that's really interesting, because in the Peter Jackson films, orcs are kind of cannon fodder. Like they overwhelm in swarms like insects. They don't necessarily come at you with hardened skills. They've got sharp objects, but they're not exactly going to be super adept with everything. The Uruk-hai is different. The fighting Uruk-hai are trained and in a different kind of way, because they're more physically capable. Because the orcs in the Jackson trilogy, they almost walk on all fours. Like they're all hunched over, and very often one of their hands will touch the ground as they're moving around. Whereas the Uruk-hai are very much bipedal and stand up straight, and are much taller. So I'm curious about that interaction between Galadriel and Adar, because of that separation, and it felt like they're not fans of Morgoth either. Like, it's like Morgoth was total destruction, and they're like, no, we're not on board with total destruction, because we don't want to all die, but we're okay with evil taking over. We're okay with that, but just not, we don't want everything and everyone to die, because then who would we eat? It has a weird sort of feel to it. But he's a very good actor. I really quite enjoy him. He played Benjen Stark in Game of Thrones.
Oh, the Joseph Wall who plays Adar?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I didn't recognize him at first, because he had a bigger beard and longer hair and stuff, or shorter hair maybe. But yeah, it's definitely. The acting in the show continues to be stellar. There's not many in the show that I would say are not someone that I enjoy watching on screen. The other thing that's another positive is the humor. And the humor in fantasy, we don't get enough of. Game of Thrones for nearly 10 years has put this gore and morbid spin on all things fantasy. And Durin and Elrond just make me happy. I really enjoy the interactions that they have. I laughed out loud once I realized, I don't think I realized during. I think I maybe had an idea that Durin might have been pulling something to embarrass Gil-galad at the elven table. They're having this dinner, and they're talking about this was episode 5, I think, and they're talking about they're talking at the elven table. They're having some sort of political discussion. Gil-galad puts Durin in a position where he doesn't want to answer something, so he switches and changes the subject to say well, you've got this table that's made of a precious ore that we worship, and anything that's ever found of this scale would be carefully crafted and preserved and all this kind of stuff. So it's like, basically you're threatening my culture and religious beliefs by having this table. So Gil-galad does what, an elf that doesn't have any need for material things would do. It basically gives him the table. It says, well, you can take it home with you and let this be a gesture of good faith between our people and blah, 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 blah. And you kind of got the idea like that was kind of thick. And then moments into the conversation that you see privately between Elrond and Durin later is Elrond saying like, you were lying about the table, weren't you? It's like, and Durin's like, well, my wife wanted a new table. This saves me the trouble. And I thought it was brilliant.
I really enjoy their friendship as well. It feels natural, which I think is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think even later, Elrond is just like, as they're bantering and walking off into the sunset, it's like a Calvin and Hobbes moment, like literally, because Durin is so short compared to Elrond. And Elrond is like, I'm telling Disa the table was my idea. And he's like hell you are. Like,
that's funny.
I need the brownie points. Maybe if I give her the table, she'll get off my back about the mithril or like whatever it was. It's like the two guys. It's like Barney Rubble and Fred Flintstone talking about how to like not be on Wilma's bad side. Like it's very, very basic, but it's dwarves and Elrond and elves in Middle Earth. And it works. It really works. And you don't get much of it because like the Southlands and Numenor and the Elvish Council, like they're all very serious. So the only comedy relief you get are from the Harfoots and from the relationship with Elrond and Durin. And I don't want to leave this just yet because there is something about the relationship there, or at least the storyline there, that really bugged me. And it's Elrond and Gil-galad talking about the oath. About Elrond has discovered via a sworn oath that Durin made him swear on his mother's grave that you will not tell anybody that there's mithril here, and explains what it is. Or explains that they have it and how they found it and how dangerous it is to mine, but what it is and what its value is, how durable and hard and malleable and useful it could be, more valuable than gold. And so Elrond gives his word that he won't tell anybody. And in like almost the very next scene, certainly the very next episode, it's Gil-galad saying like, so in your time with the dwarves, which brings me to another sidebar, they don't illustrate to you how long Elrond has been there. It feels like a day and a half.
Yeah.
And it's obviously been a lot longer.
Yeah, because at one point they do show that tower is being built rather quickly in the background.
Yeah, but I don't know what that is. I think it's a forge.
They did need a forge, and that's sort of what prompted Elrond to go make that connection originally.
Yeah.
In the series was to get the dwarves help to build because, nobody knows forges like dwarves, so.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was the idea, is that the elves needed these forges to be built. But Gil-galad basically reveals that what mithril is and where he suspects it to be, and kind of reveals the whole purpose of this forge is like, if we can utilize mithril, we could save elvendom on Earth. Mm-hmm. Which is a thing that's going through in the Lord of the Rings too. Like elvendom is slowly coming to an end. As evil takes over the world, as more evil spreads, it becomes less hospitable for the elves, and they have to basically bail. And what I didn't like was the conversation between Gil-galad and Elrond, because Gil-galad doesn't give you any additional information in terms of what more he wants from Elrond other than have the dwarves discovered mithril. And Elrond says, I will not break an oath. And by being silent is basically admitting that the dwarves have mithril. It's the dumbest fucking conversation. For as good as this show can be in terms of the writing and the dialogue, that drove me crazy. And this is where I'm going to point people towards the Decoding TV podcast, because David Chen and I had the exact same thought at the exact same time, which is all they had to do was give Gil-galad a little bit more of a like, where is it? Like, how much have they found? Like, we know it's there. That's why we sent you. But he spends minutes asking, is it there? When the whole purpose of sending him was to discover if it was there or not. So Gil-galad is like, is it there? I know it's there. Is it there? I know it's there. On a broken record, the entire conversation with Elrond. And it goes nowhere. And it really drove me crazy. I really thought it was useless. It was a waste of time. And very seldom in this show do I kind of roll my eyes and go, okay, this is getting tired. But that was one of those moments where it's like, okay, who did you bring over from writing for the WB that, maybe this is their first gig, like maybe they need to stretch their legs, but like, can we have someone supervise them, please? Because this is not the caliber of writing that the show needs or deserves. And I really pulled me out of it. I was just like, but you already know. So what, like, but all he needed to do was be like, where is it? Or, like, we think it's there. Like he needed to do something specific. Like, have you seen it? Like, is it a rumor? Like something. But I found that very hard to swallow. I'm not sure about you.
Well, I didn't find it as hard to swallow because I guess on some level I saw it coming. Because for me, the biggest eye-rolly scene in the entire thing was basically when Udûn was telling Elrond about it. Originally, he says, as you said, we've got this, swear yourself to absolute secrecy. You will never tell a soul, blah, blah, blah. This has got to die with you kind of thing. And Elrond goes, yeah, sure, absolutely. Tells him about the mithril. And then goes, well, so here's the secret. Shows it to him, shows him the mithril. And then he goes to give it back. He goes, you keep it as a token of our friendship. When I know you're going to leave here and go somewhere else, within in your pocket, I'm like, well, that's an oath waiting to be broken. Whether he means to break it or not, it was just like, for me at that point, it was just like, well, this is just a matter of time. And then to me, the lack of severity in the outcome of the oath being broken, or the oath being broken, because it's like, swear on the mountain, and he swears on his father, and like all that stuff, and then he apologizes or whatever, but hey, this could save the elves, you could be the one that saves us. And it was just like the conversation they had afterwards, even though, sorry I broke your oath. Swearing on the mountain and your father's not that big of a deal anyway. It's just like, really?
He didn't break the oath though. That's the thing. He
did, because he gave it to, what's his name? The master builder, and the master builder put it through all of the tests. So like he didn't give it to his king, but he gave it to somebody, and then.
No, they found mithril on their own, didn't they?
Oh, maybe they did. Then
yeah. So no, the master builder.
I thought he gave it back to him.
No, that's the thing. That's what made me so mad about Gil-galad's conversations, is that he already knows mithril exists. They've found some. They've done the tests, and they need it, but they need more.
Oh,
and so
I didn't find that clear.
So the idea was that this myth that they made up for the show about a Balrog and an elf fighting, and the roots of the tree that's apparently had one of the Silmarils in it, and the roots went so deep into the mountain that it created these veins of ore, and that's what's left of this magical tree, is this veins of mithril. So basically they were trying to figure out, is the dwarf mountain of Khazad-dûn, is that the mountain that just they happen to build their settlement in? Is that the mountain where this Balrog and elf fought years and years ago? And that's what I mean. Like, the elves had too much information to then send someone to go spy on the dwarves. It's like, but if you already know, then why aren't you just, anyway, it like I said, the whole thing fell apart from a logic standpoint, which is why I think it's confusing to talk about afterwards. But no, I thought the idea was that Elrond stuck to his oath, and by not breaking his oath, he still essentially told Gil-galad that there was mithril there.
Yeah.
But in doing so, he discovered the reason why the elves were looking for mithril, and then he relays that information to Durin, saying, like, if you want to save the elves, then it's all in your hands. But he still doesn't say, I had to talk to Gil-galad. He's just like, I've received information that you should know in the exchange of me holding this heavy secret for you. Let me bring you up to speed. And I think that that's how they get around that, which is some wild horseshoe corkscrew way of writing that part of the plot. It could have been a lot tidier, a lot tidier. Yeah. It did lead to a funny moment with Durin saying like, say that again. Say that I have the elves' future in my hands. I rather like the sound of that, you know?
Yeah.
And that was a fun moment. But like, everything else leading up to that was me just being like, bruh. It's just not impressed.
I'll have to go back and watch it again because I didn't find it. If what you're saying is correct and that they actually had the mithril already, I did not get that the storyline at all. Because for me, it looked like the Master Builder was giving that piece of mithril back to Elrond, and so that the conversation that they had was because Elrond gave it to the Master Builder, kind of put through the test and stuff like that. So it.
I could be wrong, but I think it speaks to how unclear the show is about all of this.
Yeah.
Like, if it's that important, it should have been a very poignant moment where we should remember who was there, who saw it, who didn't, who gasped, and who, and how, because it's the kind of thing where like if Elrond is going to reveal it, it should be like a very weighted decision and it would happen slowly and deliberately and stuff like that. But
I hope you're right because I found that so bizarre that he would just break the oath.
Mm-hmm.
Not to the king, but I'll go talk to the builder guy.
Yeah.
And just like, I'll give it to him to kind of push through the paces. But I'll take a look to see what, if the shape of what he hands back to Elrond is similar to what's in his pocket, then that even muddies it up for me even more. I really don't know at that point.
So to say on a couple of other cons that I don't like, and these are not giant things, but they are things that definitely kind of I notice when I think about, okay, well, what don't I like about the show? The other thing I find is very old school television is the constant misdirection over the 3 episodes about who is Sauron. And they keep trying to they point at the stranger, they point at Adar, they point at some other person. There's the trailer made you think it was some of these folks that are all dressed in white that show up in episode 4, 5, I think.
I'm actually really interested to find out more about them. They look pretty cool.
They do look really cool, and they look kind of sinister. Like as white and as fair as they are, they look kind of pointy and evil. Like they don't have eyebrows, I don't think. So like they're creepy. They're creepy.
Yeah, but they don't appear to have elf ears, so they don't seem to be any being that we've met yet.
Well,
they don't seem.
I mean, they could be humans that are servants of Morgoth, right? Like there could be all kinds of different things.
True.
Yeah. And this brings me to a fun point to try and put a good spin on this is that something that was brought up on, again, giving credit to Decoding TV. How many white figures were there? 3?
I thought there were 3 standing up on the hill.
Okay.
When one of them went down to look at the impact.
So I don't remember all of it. I don't remember whether that was 3 up on the cliff and then they cut to 1 going down, or whether 1 was already down and they cut up to 3 on the cliff. I don't remember. But they're shot in a very similar way to the wolf in the first episode or the second episode that attacks or is prowling the Harfoots when they're collecting berries. And later on in episode 5, there's 3 wolves that attack the stranger and the Harfoots.
Oh, interesting.
So something that does exist in the Tolkien universe are shapeshifters and werewolves, which I didn't know. I found out. And again, like a tip of the hat to Don Marshall. But yeah, like that to me was fun and interesting. It doesn't have to lead anywhere. They don't have to essentially be werewolves, but that would be cool.
It would, yeah.
And it's a nice sort of like, if you're really paying attention, viewer, then there are some little threads that you can connect here. And I think that's what they're doing with the stranger as well. I don't necessarily think that they're pointing the stranger as close to Sauron as I thought they were originally. I think they're steering it a little bit farther away. But I do get tired of these long shots of like even dialogue where they're just like, "You are Sauron, aren't you?" It's like, no, it's Adar. And Adar is even almost annoyed that he's been mistook for Sauron.
Yeah.
I can't quite tell whether Adar is like a fan of Sauron or he's just using Sauron to get what he wants for his people. But yeah, like I get the constant misdirection of, is this Sauron? Is that Sauron? Like I'm tired of it. I don't think we're going to meet Sauron this season. I think whoever Sauron ends up being, there's going to be 3 to 5 seasons of this show. I think it's going to be much later. And I said this with Johnny a couple of weeks ago. I think they're going to appear fairer and feel fouler, to quote Frodo from Lord of the Rings Fellowship. In that I don't think you're going to see someone and go, ooh, that feels like Sauron. I think whoever you meet is not going to feel like a bad guy at all at first.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's going to be a really good, big kind of reveal. Because that's the kind of thing, like, that's a season ender kind of like, who's who. So but the fact that they're constantly alluding to, like, maybe this is Sauron, it's kind of annoying me. I hope they're kind of done with it.
Yeah.
And the other things that I find tedious for me, and I think you might feel the same way, is that I really don't give a shit about Theo or Isildur. Like, I just don't care.
They've got a handful of characters, even Isildur's sister, Eärien. Like, I don't know what they're there for yet, because they just seem to go back and forth on what they want to do and what they don't want to do, what they're supporting, what they're not supporting, and it's just like, why are you there? And the little scenes with them don't seem to actually be moving anything forward. If what I read correctly when I fell down the Wikipedia hole the other day, I believe Amazon had to agree to 5 seasons to get the rights to this show.
Right.
So hopefully then, they're introducing these people. Hopefully it pays off and they are of some significance storyline wise down the road. But right now I'm just like, eh. And then just the stuff they have like Theo do that just makes me shake my head. Like, he returned to the village to get food in episode 4, and he manages to evade the orcs after getting sliced in the leg, even though he was making splashes noises in the well and the grass and the garbage and all this stuff. And then it's just like, there's a lot of stuff that makes me shake my head around, those 2 characters.
And it's not like they're poorly acted. I think they're just poorly written.
Yeah.
They're all over the place. Like, Isildur, I guess perhaps true to his character later, because you're not supposed, I don't think you're supposed to like Isildur, but I don't find that you're supposed to pity him according to the way that he's feeling. But everything that he's done is his own damn fault.
Yeah.
And he's just wishy-washy. Like, he can't, for someone that wants to go west and leave Numenor, he doesn't seem to realize that the best way to do that is on a fucking boat.
Yeah.
So you're gonna self-sabotage your Seaguard application, essentially, your Seaguard test. Screw you and your friends over, by the way. Congratulations, you're a dick. And then, but I want to go west. You're on an island, you dumbass. Like, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The character motivation
Can't go west without a boat.
It's all over the place, right? So, and then he wants to go west, and then so he tries to stow away, and so he stops the fire, or he doesn't stop the fire. He just saves a guy that also I don't like. It's the regent's son. I don't remember his name. I don't care either way. They're both these wishy-washy. Like, one is a rich kid that you're not going to like anyway, and the other one is the son of a general, I guess. I don't know what.
He's a captain on the ship, but I don't know what he was before that.
Yeah, Arendur. I don't remember what it was. No, that's Arendur's the elf. Elendil. Lloyd Owen is Captain Elendil. So he's a captain, but captains seem to be pretty high ranking in Numenorian culture, which would make sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, like, he's the son of a captain, but like he seems to want to coast and doesn't want to actually work at all. And I don't really enjoy him. There was one conversation with Galadriel that was cool, but it was only cool because he was able to get Galadriel to talk about what she was seeing and how she was feeling. It wasn't that Isildur was good in the scene or needed. It was just that someone needed to talk to Galadriel for her not to be talking to herself. So I like that. But I think the only other thing that I would say is a problem with the show for me is the pacing. And it's not that the pacing is bad, is that the pacing can't decide what it wants to do. At some points it moves so fast where you're like, how much time has passed?
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if this is the right, even if this is the same timeline. Like, there's a lot of questions that some of the transitions and information delivery leaves you asking. And then
Yeah.
other times scenes go on for so bloody long that you're like, okay, I get it. Like, this is scary. Or, like, for example, as cool, I know you like long shots. So Arendir, the elf, and the giant orc are having this fight in episode 6.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it's almost a continuous shot. There's certainly a continuous shot from the roof down to the ground. So there's definitely some stunts I think that maybe the actor pulled off as well. That, or they've done some movie magic and, tip of the hat to them and the stunt coordinators and stuff. But like that fight went on forever. The spike in the eye and the strangle at the well, and it's just like it was a long time. And I thought, most of the time I thought like Arendir should be dead. He's only alive because the script says so.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, where like they'll have these pacing issues where like the fight scenes, as cool as they are, go on for a really long time. And then they also have, poignant information scenes that go by too quickly. And you're like, but like they didn't have time to really say anything of any weight. So like there's a conversation between Galadriel and Halbrand, and I don't know what they actually said to one another other than like, you should do this because you have to. Okay. Like,
Yeah.
does that convince you? It wouldn't convince me. So,
well, especially since it was like, I don't want to, like throughout the entire thing. And then in one moment, it's like, yeah, okay.
So that stuff I think is where the show suffers. But the plot pacing is minor compared to, I think, some of the characters that I don't care for. I'd rather care for everybody and have pacing issues than vice versa. So we'll see where that goes. But like, for me, like wrapping this up, like it ends on a high note. I really enjoyed the traveling with the Harfoots, the character development and the changes that we see in the stranger who's talking now. They reveal more about the stranger every time we see him. He's using magic to freeze water and heal wounds. He slammed the ground to save them from the wolves and created he's got powers, he's concerned whether he is peril, like whether he's danger. Nori is like, no, you're not danger. You help us. You're here to save us. And so there's all these things that happen with them that I think is really interesting and cool. And they're definitely pointing the stranger towards something. I don't know what that is yet, though.
I feel like it's Gandalf. It feels like it's a little too on the nose to be Gandalf, but they're building them up to be so Gandalf-like. I'll be honestly shocked if it's not Gandalf.
Yeah, and the relationship with the Harfoots and the similarity to the Harfoots and the halflings and Shire folk, like in Hobbits, like it makes sense.
Yeah.
And we've got the memory loss that happens to Gandalf when he goes from Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White in the Two Towers. Like he sort of remembers who he is when he meets Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli in the woods. Like there's some similarities there for sure. But there are 5 wizards. So I'm not sure which one. If the stranger is a wizard, it doesn't have to be Gandalf.
No, I know.
Could be Saruman. Could be Radagast. I don't know.
But just, I guess for me, just if you're going to spend that much time on introducing a character, if it is a wizard, like just from like a fan service side of things, like why would you pick one of the less well-known ones? Or why would you give all of the story about, not Saruman, is it?
Saruman, yeah.
Yeah. Why would you build up like, his backstory and get you like to like him and enjoy him, suddenly to know that, oh, he's the bad guy in the future. I mean, it could be wrong, could be him, but it feels like such a Gandalf buildup that I will be generally surprised if it's not him.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too is that they do have 5 seasons, and like the Gandalf drop could also be, later on. To spice up those later seasons. The only reason I can think of, if it was to be a lesser known wizard, like say one of the 2 blue wizards, their job was to go to the Southlands and rally the people and help them not be evil and servants of Morgoth. So with all the time we're spending in the Southlands, that's possible. However, the other reason is that it might have more freedom at Amazon. If it's one of the lesser known wizards, then you don't have to live up to or stick to all of the different things. That's one of the things that they're doing with Galadriel, is that Galadriel is in the Second Age, but there's precious little known about what she was up to other than she was
Right.
in this city, that city, and she married this guy. That's it.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got all this blank slate to kind of fill in the gaps and make her this really cool, badass female lead. And she's fantastic. Like
Yeah.
Morpheus Clark is just knocking it out of the park. Still a
Yeah.
little like frowny, but like, that she's hardened, she's battle hardened, and she's explained that. So, but I really enjoy all of that. And I mean, her in the battle scene when the Numenorians show up and save the Southland village from the orcs, and like there's a lot of really cool epic moments, including one of the first times that you see Galadriel give up
Yeah.
or appear to give up. And this is where the plot and the writing and the twists, I was like, slow clap, Amazon, slow clap. Because for weeks we've seen the orcs digging this trench. They've been boring under the villages and stealing people and stealing livestock and poisoning the land. And they've been covering up the ditch, protecting themselves from the sun, which makes sense because then if you've got the ditch dug, then you've got protection from all three sides or all four sides without, like, you could just make a tent down the road, right? But then you'd still have sunlight coming in from the sides. And they very clearly point out to the audience how bad the sun is for the orcs. Like they blister and probably die. Anyway, as Waldrig is given a task by Adar after they successfully retrieve the hilt of the Morgul blade. Well, we all know it's a Morgul blade. No one else knows what the hell it is. And he sends them off to the Elven Tower, and he uses it as a key, which they've discovered it to, like, Arondir knows it's important, knows it's a key to some sort of evil, because he spent years in this tower staring at this old carving and stuff. And so when Adar gets it, he gives it to him and sends him on his way to say, I have a task for you. And so what he does is he uses it as a key, and it opens up a dam in the tower that releases the water, which we've seen before when the Ents take out the dam and flood Orthanc in the Two Towers. I think it's the Two Towers. It might be the Return of the King. And then we realize very quickly that these trenches were meant to house this water. It's meant to direct the water from the dam throughout the Southlands. And you're thinking, oh, well, this is how they're going to destroy the villages. They're going to sweep them away. It's going to flood and destroy and create, pestilence and disease and all this kind of stuff. And then they pan over to the mountain and they go inside the mountain, and the orcs are chanting the name of the episode, Udûn. And as soon as they said it, I was like, son of a gun. I knew exactly where they were going. Inside the mountain, it's volcanic. It's a huge empty crater full of nothing but lava. Looks like the Nether in Minecraft, honestly. And when the water hits it, kaboom. Mount Doom, created in episode 6 of Rings of Power. And the cataclysmic explosion that wipes across the land is kind of how we end the episode. And it kind of brings back the conversation we were having about Adar and the speech that he was giving about creating a home for the orcs. Well, a volcano that's constantly spewing ash into the air blocks out the sun, right?
Right.
So you have a safe place for orcs to walk around. Mordor, right? Like it really came together a lot faster than I thought. But I was like, oh, clever. Okay. Like that sold me. I'm on board. I definitely, especially because that wasn't episode 8. That was episode 6. Yeah. Right. So I'm really curious.
That moment felt like a season ender.
It did. And so basically there's this long shot of Galadriel just staring in defeat at this cataclysmic cloud of ash and fire flowing across the land at them. And I mean, we know she doesn't die, but you get the feeling that they just established victory. And I feel like this is something that they do very well in Lord of the Rings. And this is a page from Game of Thrones. Absolutely.
Mm.
You just won a battle. But while you were winning the battle, you were not watching the chessboard. And the real evil son of a bitch pulls a move just after you win the battle and you're done. Right? It's like the Red Wedding. It's like the Battle of the Bastards. You know, like it's just the rug gets tugged out from underneath your hero at the last minute. And as cool as it is as a viewer, you're just like, son of a bitch, the good guys just won. Briefly. You know? So yeah, like that to me was a great way to end the episode. And I really enjoyed episode 6. 4 and 5 were good, but like episode 6 was like top marks for me.
Me too.
To wrap things up, like I'm definitely looking forward to finishing up the season. Johnny from the Spawn Chunks is going to be returning, has already requested a season wrap-up special to talk about the Rings of Power. So it'll be another couple weeks before we talk about that. So everybody will have a chance to catch up and finish the episodes and whatnot. So that'll be fun to do. But I'm anticipating enjoying like the rest of the season. I know we've spent a little bit of time complaining about a few things, and it's not a perfect show, but my gosh, it's a very good fantasy television show. And I think, to wrap up saying exactly what I said at the beginning, it's true to the mood of Lord of the Rings. When I think Lord of the Rings and how I feel when I watch it, I feel the same way overall when I watch Rings of Power. And so I'm itching to watch the movies again. Like, it's been a while. And I think when Rings of Power is over, it's going to have that, there's a long wait before season 2.
Guess I'll break out the 3-hour movies.
Yeah, it's good thing I've got the extended edition, because that's going to take some time. But yeah, so I'm really enjoying it. I meant to ask you at the start of this, and we can wrap up with this. Like, are you watching it with the family? Like, is everybody enjoying it, or is it just you and Tam? Like, how's that rolling?
Yeah, it's the whole family. It's basically become our Saturday homemade pizza and a movie, or homemade pizza and viewing. So it's good. We're enjoying it.
Well, that brings us into the Internet Minute, which is, of course, brought to you by you, dear listener. The Citadel Cafe is 100% listener supported. If you're getting value out of the show, please consider putting a little bit of value back in. You can become a member at patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. Joining at any level will get you an invite into the member-only Discord server, shared by my personal Discord. And of course, special thanks to our Bean counter patrons, Cosmic and Smurf588. Thanks ever so much for your support on this episode. Patron count is at 28. That's steady on from last week. Our goal each week is to have at least one more patron than the week before. If you would like to be patron number 29, visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. I have Lego, surprising no one, but they keep on coming out with cool stuff. So I got to talk about it. And this is the Razor Crest. You're like, wait a minute, Joel, you've talked about the Razor Crest before. You even own it. Yes, I do. I do not own the Ultimate Collector Series Razor Crest, which is $760 Canadian. It is, I think, one of the largest sets that Lego has ever released. It's not the biggest, but it's bigger than Hogwarts. And it's just shy by 1,300 pieces of the Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon. So 6,187 pieces, 10 inches by 20 inches by 29 inches. It's more than
29
feet. It's more than 2 feet long. Like, you need space for this. And the way I found out about this was a brilliant advertisement on Instagram. The Lego group put out a time lapse of the building of this thing from the inside out. So you got to see the cockpit, you got to see the storage, the weapons locker, you get to see the carbonite stuff, you got to see the way that the wings and the fuselage is all built, the way that the legs go together. It's all kind of time-lapsed and stuff. Super, super cool. And I was like, that was amazing. It's like, that's really detailed. And then when I got to the webpage, it was like $750. Yeah, no wonder it's detailed. Holy crap. And it looks really cool, and it's definitely sleeker looking than the playset version that I have, which I can't remember how many pieces that is, but it's only like, it's in like the 1,800 range. It's not crazy. I say that's a big set of Lego too, and very much appreciated. But it's this kind of thing is like, this is weeks of your life putting this together. Comes with a bunch of minifigures. You've got, of course, Din Djarin, Grogu in the hover Pram, which is a fun addition. I don't remember the name of this guy. I don't know if he even has a name. It's the Mithril character that he puts in Carbonite, and Queel, and a buildable blurg from season 1 of The Mandalorian. And so it's got classic Mando vibes. I mean, it's a very cool set. The set releases on October 7th, which is just a couple days from now, and is already available to VIP early access as of Monday, October 3rd. So folks that really want it probably already have it ordered, and those that are looking to get it soon can order it this Friday. So yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, there's lots of really cool stuff coming from Lego, and I'm a little scared because now that I do a Friday Lego stream, I'm not allowed to buy any more until I've built the 6 sets that I have in boxes right now.
6 sets, oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's a lot. Some of them have been around an embarrassingly long time because they were gifts. And once I realized I was doing it on stream, I didn't want to cannibalize my own content by doing them offline.
Right.
It's really fun to share them too, because it also makes the build process take a lot longer. Like I could build a Lego set, like a little 500 piece Lego set. I could build that in an hour on my own, but it takes like 2.5 or 3 on stream because you're chatting and you're laying the pieces out and all that kind of stuff. So I much prefer that experience, and sharing it with someone is more fun.
It's almost too bad that it's so huge, because like you said, you need to have the space for it, because that Instagram trailer that you had, that you linked as well, it does a really good job of making you want to put that together.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I had trouble putting Optimus Prime on my shelf. Like, he's 13 inches tall. He barely fits on the bookshelf. And so with this, like, I mean, you'd have to have a display shelf, like a Lego geared display. Like, I'm not even sure how much this weighs, you know? I wouldn't put it above anything breakable. Like, you don't want this falling on a houseplant, you know?
Yeah, no kidding.
You know, like, not to mention, you can imagine the smash that it would make when it hit the floor.
Like, having to put that back together would be just heartbreaking.
Man, you'd be better to start over again. Like, you'd be better to just rip it off piece by piece and just start from roughly where you left off, you know, and like halfway up the fuselage or something. That's my Lego pick. What is your pick this week?
Keeping in the spirit of Black Panther, there is a Black Panther bust available, Lego bust available, which is pretty darn cool. It's again, a little on the pricey side, so you've got to be a huge Lego fan and Black Panther fan to fork out the 450 Canadian for this. But it is, it's a bust. It shows the mask, shoulders sporting the necklace, and the 2 gloves crossed over in the classic Wakanda sort of, I was going to say salute. I don't know if it's really a salute or just a sort of greeting gesture.
Certainly how they greet the king. Definitely.
By comparison, a fraction of the size of the Razor Crest. It's measly 2,900 pieces, but it's still pretty slick looking.
And the hands open and close too, so you could have it kind of like claws out. Like, they're still facing the back, but the claws can be like either open or shut. Mm-hmm. So it's articulated hands. I was surprised at the number of pieces, but when I looked at how big it is, it stands 19 inches tall. And then it's 16 inches at the base, like as like a square. So yeah, like, it's not a small thing. Like, it's the kind of bust that you would see, kind of like the Beethoven bust that you would see on a piano. Like that, that kind of like Muppets kind of talking bust thing. But yeah, I feel like, as big as it is and as cool as it is, I feel like it's inaccessibly priced. I can't see myself putting that much out, you know, like, because Optimus Prime wasn't cheap, but I want to say he was $250, but he's like an action figure, like head to toe model that transforms into a truck.
That transforms. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and I get that Lego's expensive, but like, and the other thing too is like, this is all one color. Like, there's a little bit of purple and there's a lot of black and a little bit of silver, but it's really just a lot of the same. So I don't know. But then again, like, I mean, knowing what I know now about modern Lego and these bigger, more adult aimed builds, the build process of putting this together is still going to be ridiculously cool. Like, the way that they are going to connect things in order to get the angles that they're using, the way that they're going to create the inside structure so the whole thing doesn't fall apart all the time. Yeah. Like, there's going to be some very cool techniques, I think, in that build. So it's not just the decorative thing. There's going to be some interaction and play design and stuff happening there that I think will be a surprise for some people. But But yeah, that is definitely a pricey set.
And just scroll down to see another photo of it with a person next to it, and the head on it's almost the same size as the head of the gentleman who's shown putting it together. So it's a very cool set.
Well, that wraps up this episode of the Citadel Cafe. You can get more information about the show and links to some of the things that Stephen and I talked about at thecitadelcafe.com. Music for the show was composed by Kevin MacLeod. You can email the show at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com. Find the show by name on Twitter. And of course, subscribe for free on your favorite podcast app. You can even find the show on YouTube. Word of mouth is the easiest way to support the show. Just tell friends about the Citadel Cafe and where they can go to listen to it. And while you're out there on the interwebs, if you want to leave us a review on something like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, that helps us get into the ear holes of strangers, which is awkward but fun for them. My name is Joel Duggan. You can find everything I am doing online, including my illustration and design portfolio at joelduggan.com. Listen to my other podcast all about Minecraft, even though that's kind of how we started this one, at thespawnchunks.com. Johnny and I are going to be covering the latest dev videos that are coming out this week. There is a Minecraft Live coming up on the 15th, and Mojang is doing a mob vote. The player base will be voting in a new mob, and they were releasing little teasers to those new mobs this week on YouTube and Twitter. So we're going to be talking about that in the next episode. This past episode, we were actually talking about something else that they're more likely to talk about at Minecraft Live, which is the new game, Minecraft Legends. It's a real-time action strategy game coming from Mojang. So separate from Minecraft, but in the Minecraft world. So we spent a good amount of time talking about that on this past Monday's show. You can follow me at Joel Duggan on social media and Joel Duggan on Twitch, where I stream almost every day now because I've got the time. But schedule-wise, LEGO on Friday, Saturday and Sunday are Minecraft. And when I have time, I'm fitting in a lot of extra Satisfactory streams and having a lot of fun doing it. Stephen, where can people find you online?
Find me mostly at twitch.tv/StephenESC, and that's Stephen with a PH, where I am back playing Minecraft on a single-player world and streaming Thursday evenings and Sunday mornings.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.